Hello there. Welcome to Spread and Essence, sports betting's football picks podcast from Essen.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, as always, by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, season's greetings.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Would you like to take our off-air conversation on here? We're just talking a little Cactus League baseball.
Yeah. I mean, you can bet. That's the thing. You can bet on the Cactus League. You can bet on anything these days.
Yeah.
We will be mostly circling Week 9 in the NFL here. You more or less talked me out of just talking about the election this week. I thought we could have done a good 45 minutes on election betting, which I have some theories on. Yeah. So it's busy time of year.
When we get to the end, I think you can fire away. You know, like we'll get through our picks and maybe you share some of those thoughts.
All right, yeah, because I was looking at.
I don't want to be hold the artist back. Yeah.
No, I mean I was just trying to. I thought about doing some parlaying with my picks this week. Maybe go offshore, kind of look into putting the Bucks with Kamala wins Illinois or something, and really try to drive up a little bit of value here and there, or maybe long term. Going
offshore though, they're great. The great irony of it.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, but I guess it's better than. I mean, if you want to open up a whole can of worms, the idea of legal domestic betting on elections probably is not what's best considering everything else going around. So yeah, it's week 9 of the NFL. The trade deadline, speaking of election day, is a week from Tuesday, same day as election day. Halloween is on Thursday. I was thinking about this today when I was out for my run this morning. Like it's fall. Like we're halfway through the season just about. This is the time of year where I am very enjoying, very, very much thrive. Like I like the gloominess of the fall. We are into that spot where it's like, yeah, it says a lot about me. Yes. I also think it's like, this is where the football gets good, right? Like it means something now. It's not hot anymore. Like you're a little more pain on Sundays, whether a viewer or a player. There's just a lot. This is the best time of year.
Tell you what though, I was teetering on the edge of, I haven't turned the heat on my place yet. So but it's kind of dipped down this week. It's gotten a little bit colder, but now it's getting warmer again. It's supposed to be happens when you live in New England.
80 degrees on Halloween.
I know. So I think I've just I've kept looking at that, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to turn it on, and then we're going to get back to 80, and so we're just going to do this dance next week. I think might be when they get the old switch.
I lost that battle like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, ours has been on for a while. Finally closed the pool last week though, so I'm all over the place. I took
the AC out of my window too.
There you go.
That was a battle. So it's gradual steps.
Let me use. I think a park next to you in the parking lot. I think your inspection's overdue.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Come on.
Mine is too. I still haven't fixed my side view mirror from last year, so I gotta fix that first.
That could be a weekend project. But you're parked next to me. That's interesting. We worked together for how long, and you never parked next to me?
I had to run across the street, and I came back. My parking spot was gone. So, so we're going to get into our 3 2 unit plays as we do every week. Then we're going to save a little bit of time, budget a little time. Hopefully, we can move through those quickly to do some Halloween celebrating as we do.
Yeah, we didn't go full costume this year, but that is a nice shirt.
Yeah, you like this? Yeah. Talk about mindset this time of year and just kind of being not down in the dumps. I don't want to turn this into a therapy.
Gloominess that you speak of.
Yeah, it's kind of just like I don't really feel like dressing up for our stupid little podcast. So,
also after last year's failed effort to get Richard Karn.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah,
I mean, I thought about it. Like, do we go back to that well? Is this maybe do we double down and try to get Richard Karn this year? But maybe we take a different approach to that. Maybe we get him on, send him a Christmas card or something.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas from the spread.
Yeah.
Can we get a Mike O'Malley one too?
I mean, he's among the white whales.
All right. So we have 3 months until the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Like I'm picturing a Super Bowl extravaganza with Richard Karn and Mike O'Malley for Octobox in here. We can go nuts. So it's something to strive for.
Track him down on Cameo, but
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So. Let's see. Did anything happen in Week 8 that you want to go over, or do you want to just get into the picks and do it as we go?
I was not for the purposes of the show, but I was victimized by the Washington Hail Mary.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about that
So
already.
that was a nice little
tough.
treat that
Sorry.
fell into my lap. But yeah, I think that was the big thing for me.
Yeah, I was giving our son a bath at that time, and that's one of those ones where it's like, oh, I feel like I missed out on something because all of a sudden you just start seeing the tweets and stuff. It's like, oh.
That was at the point in the day where you kind of over football too.
That's the thing. That's a tough time of the day.
I think I just wasn't as pissed off as maybe I would normally be because of I was just like, whatever.
Sean the next. Yeah, that's fair.
That happens early in the day. That'll set you back.
Yeah, then it's like, well, I'm just gonna go for a walk or something.
Yeah.
Get some candy for the Halloween. Yeah, I'm just looking through it right now. I think we had a pretty good week last week. The Lions continued to kind of assert themselves as one of the best teams in the league. I think it's them or the Chiefs now at this point. We'll kind of get into maybe both of those teams at points in this one. You want to talk about the Bengals at all? Are we ready to shovel dirt on them? I was
not yet.
Kind of going back to that. Well,
I'm not
triple
ready
and
yet.
quadruple down.
I'm not ready yet.
They got absolutely bushwhacked by the Eagles.
Like the first half of that game, it looked okay.
It did, and then it was not okay. The Broncos, by the way, are 5-3.
Hey, I know.
That's something
we'll get into that. I feel like a little
to discuss.
AFC West stuff.
And then, I guess it was a pretty, outside of the once-in-a-generation Hail Mary, it was a pretty uneventful week.
Yeah, you had the Arizona coming back against Miami. That was so when we talked about
Ones that looked good for a while.
Quarterbacks that you hate betting against.
There you go.
Kyler Murray. That was my number one pick when we did this over the offseason, and it's for exact situations like that.
I'll tell you one guy who is in that list too is, I think we might have even mentioned it. It's a lesser version of that is Jameis Winston. He came out and was really good. I didn't expect him to win that game, but I was on that one last week as well.
I don't know necessarily where you're leaning with your picks, but do you want to talk about the Jets at all and follow up on our dysfunction conversation?
I don't think I have anything with the Jets. I think we might get to some of our Halloween tidings. One take I feel pretty good about is that Devontae Adams is going to make them worse, if not improve them. And then they're 0-2 and with two very bad losses. I don't know if you can pin it on him or Rodgers even. I just think the whole thing's fundamentally broken, and if once it starts tumbling, it tumbles fast. I think is what they're now kind of experiencing.
What's the fix, right? Like you just play out the string.
This is the other thing.
Hope it miraculously fixes
This is the other
itself.
thing too. Like we talked about this. Was it last week? Yeah, right. Patriots, Jets, or maybe no. We talked about a couple weeks ago the long-term future. Like, what's the positive for the Jets after this year? Yeah, exactly. Like, they still have Sauce Gardner. They still have Garrett Wilson. Like, they have guys, but their rookie deals are coming up. I think they need a new head coach. They're probably going to fire the general manager. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I know he's under contract or could come back next year. And I think, the betting market, there's a betting market on Rodgers. I think he's minus 200 yes to come back. I don't know, man. I think he's the type of guy who's just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore.
If you're the Jets, do you want him to come back? Or do you?
Yeah,
would
for
you
one
prefer
more year.
But like, if the year is going to look anything resembling this year, don't you just want to rip the Band-Aid off and get on with it?
I just think they're going to end up middle of the pack anyway. And they're going to take, I think there's going to be some sort of cap penalty because if he retires after the season, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. So it's like you can't go out and make like a Kirk Cousins type of deal probably.
Yeah.
You're going to be drafting. They're going to be okay. Like I don't think they're going to free fall. So you're not going to be up top drafting a quarterback. I just don't know what.
I think Aaron Rodgers just sucks. Like I think that's just like
old friend Jeff Howe wrote a really good.
He's not good anymore.
Jeff wrote a good story on The Athletic. Just talked to a handful of executives. It was just like that's what it was. It's not even entirely his fault. He's a 40-year-old coming off of an Achilles injury that like sometimes ends careers. But like they built their team and they put faith in him like he was going to be 31, not 41, and we're seeing that.
The other layer of that, if Aaron Rodgers
so
was
infuriating too.
If he was available this offseason, any team could sign him. Would you want your franchise to go anywhere near him?
If money was no option, maybe, but I think about it, depending on what it was, the situation. Yeah. So this is one thing we'll get into a little bit later. Should they I saw Mike Florio float the idea of trading him at the deadline.
Ooh.
That would be fun. I hope they do it just for the
right.
the interest
Stick
in
a pin in that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen for the cap reasons I talked about. But
Halloween festivities later on in the show.
yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
That.
What's your 3 play this week for Week 9 in the NFL?
I'm going to take the Vikings laying 5.5 on Sunday night against the Indianapolis Colts at home. Colts obviously making the quarterback change, kind of surprising too, going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco.
He's done.
I think this is a situation where they could tee off on Joe Flacco. I'm like, and this goes back to last season. Like, I've just been so reticent to buy into the Joe Flacco stuff, even when it looks okay.
Yeah.
And then we saw it at the end of last season with Cleveland, and eventually it went off the rails. I just think you look at Minnesota's defense, obviously number 1 in defensive DVOA, but also number 1 in blitz percentage and pressure percentage. Joe Flacco, 38 of 39 qualified quarterbacks this season in yards per attempt and adjusted completion percentage against the blitz.
Oh.
He's a statue. He's an old statue. It is what it is. I just think Ryan Flores is going to throw the house at him. He could have some problems. I also think they're just going to – the Indianapolis offense could find itself in some, unenviable third and long situations. Minnesota's defense, second in early down rush success rate. Indianapolis's offense, although obviously the numbers are skewed a little bit because they haven't had Jonathan Taylor at times, but 22nd in early down rush success rate. So yeah, I just think this is a bad matchup for Indianapolis. Minnesota's got the rest advantage having played on Thursday night. Coming off back-to-back losses, so maybe that's, there's a perception there that this game could be closer than it ends up being. At home, prime time. I think this is just a game that could get away from the Colts pretty early and often.
Interesting. I actually think I'd be on the other side of this one. I think they are going to be okay for like a week or two with Flacco, and then eventually this thing falls apart.
Yeah.
I do have questions about Minnesota too. I think it's interesting. We've seen this with Flores defenses in the past. Is when he's the start of the year, they could just gas it up, throw anything at you, and then like once it gets on film, it's a little easier to dissect. I think ton of short passes here maybe is the way to get around it. But what is it, 38 of 39?
Yeah,
that's where I'm like, well, maybe not.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
It's a good stat.
I'm just fading Flacco. Fade Flacco. Hashtag
yeah.
Fade Flacco.
Any thoughts on the Anthony Richardson thing? You just put guys in bad spots. It's like this was gonna happen.
Yeah, I would have stuck with them. I would have.
Yeah, because what's the point now? I saw what they came out and said, like we're basically at 500, like we have a chance to save our season.
Yeah,
but like for what?
Yeah, you're not winning the Super Bowl
to go
with Joe
9-8, 10-7, and get your heads kicked in by Kansas City at some point. Or
you
whatever?
Probably with Anthony Richardson, you to that point, like you go what, like 7-10.
Yes,
with Joe Flacco,
right.
You go 9-8. Are those 2 wins worth the long-term problems that you potentially caused by making a switch of this magnitude?
Not even long-term problems, just like you get better data.
Yeah,
but there is no
it all fits together.
You get nothing out of Joe Flacco. Like, all right, he's 40 years old or whatever he is.
It feels like you're just like you're hiding him. It's like we feel Anthony Richardson is so bad we need to hide him right now.
To that point, he's got to be done, right? In Indianapolis, he's a guy who. How old is he?
I mean, that is a very small sample size though to consider him done.
22 years old. So like, yeah, but I'm just saying it's hard to come back from this.
Yeah,
like the guy didn't play really at all much in college.
But I think that speaks to the importance of having to play out this year, because then you say he continues to suck as much as he has, but you give him all of this year, you get to the end, and then you pull the plug. Now it's like, no matter what, you're going to go into next year, assuming you don't go out and make a big quarterback splash, and you're going to be right back in this situation, probably with Anthony Richardson and then like Andy Dalton, or whoever the next iteration of Joe Flacco is for them. Not good.
Number 4 pick after 13 college starts.
Ugh.
It's like, well, you can't. Yeah, you almost can't give up on him now just because.
That's the thing, right? He's like coming out of college. The lack of experience is very raw. Like you knew what you were getting into in that regard. So it's hard to second guess it.
Yeah.
It's like I think everybody just got kind of swept up in the. Even before this season, they were like, "Well, he looked decent last year before he went down." There was like some MVP chatter.
Yeah,
that one's really quick.
That's a good point. So yeah, there's just a weird talking about the Rodgers thing. That's one.
But
one spot.
Indianapolis has kind of been this way for a few years now too, where it's like how even when they win, it's never overly impressive.
Yeah, everything is uninspiring about them. The coach, the quarterback, the roster. Like, there's not a whole lot to hang your hat on right now.
Yeah.
They're not bad, but they're probably a product of a crappy division, too. So, let's see here. Oh, my 3-unit play.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay, catching 8.5 on the road against the Chiefs. I believe this is a Monday night game. 8.5 just feels like a lot of points. There are a couple of games on here that kind of jumped out to me. One of them is one of your picks, to be honest with you. We might have a little more dissension as well. But 8.5 for Tampa Bay. I know offensively they've got some issues with the injuries and things like that. That being said, they came out and played a pretty good game last week against Atlanta. They obviously didn't win that game, but the offense looked better than maybe I expected. They're pretty efficient, and they're a well-run unit. You know, you kind of talk about, I guess maybe they're like a little bit better version of the Colts, where there's nothing overly impressive, but the consistency and the level of adultness, generally speaking, is pretty high there. On the other side, very much adults, the Chiefs, if you will. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, I think it's pretty much in cruise control right now. There is a reason I liked them a couple weeks ago in Kansas City. I think they have the ability to turn it on when they want. I still think they're kind of working through things or at least putting it in cruise control. And I think that's backed up by some of the stats. I think they have, 2 wins this season by 7 or more points. And they're 7-0, so 5 wins by less than that. And then 6 wins by 8 points or more last year, including the playoffs. So this is pretty consistent that we've been talking about this in years past. They not that they play with their food. I just think they know what they have to do to win games, and they don't really care about style points. They are 4-5-1 since New Year's Day 2023. That's playoffs and regular season in the favor of 8 or more. 0-2-1 against the spread in their last 3. Since the start of last season, they've scored 27 points or more just twice in those games, of 7 games. And it's a small sample size, but Tampa Bay 2-0 against the spread is an 8-point dog or bigger since the start of last season. Again, small sample size, but we're going with it kind of backs up what my mind perceives the Bucs and the Chiefs to be. The Bucs kind of are scrappy, play above their weight, and the Chiefs just want to win games and move on to next week.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't even mean that in a negative way either.
Last week it was Kansas City laying 7.5 against Vegas.
I thought it was even higher. It was up to like 9.
Was it maybe a little higher? But that was a game where I kind of I wanted to blindly take the points.
Yeah.
For a lot of the reasons you mentioned, and they seem to get there.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be pretty, and you never really it never feels like it's in the. Like last week, it never felt like they were going to lose that game or anything. But you're like, there's a chance that Vegas sneaks in the back door, and sure enough, they did. And now I look, and I like Tampa Bay a lot more than I like Vegas, right? I'm not out on Tampa Bay. I know the injuries were, everybody just immediately wrote them off. But in that division, I don't know. Aside from Atlanta, and Atlanta has had its share of issues. Atlanta I feel like is just beat up on bad teams, bad defenses in particular. I'm not writing off Tampa Bay in the South.
To that point, I guess somewhat to that point, the Bucs have played the toughest schedule so far in the NFL this season. They're 4 wins. Washington, at Detroit, Philly, and at New Orleans. 2 of those are really impressive. They got them very early in the season, so it's a little swayed. But then the losses to Denver, a loss that doesn't look as bad as every week passes. 2 to Atlanta. They've already been swept by Atlanta. One of those was in overtime in Baltimore.
They had to have that one last week. They let that one slip away.
Like I said, handle themselves pretty well in all of those. So one last trend or whatever, if you want to call it that. BetMGM had this. Mahomes 18-25-3 against the spread as a favorite of 7 or more in his career. Against the NFC in those situations, 2-7. So I think they handled familiar opponents a little bit better. Mayfield as a road dog of 3.5 or higher in his career, 15-7 against the spread. So it just jumped off the page. 8.5 feels like a lot for a team that deserves some respect for what they've been able to do despite some injuries and things like that. So
okay, we're gonna blend a couple of those things together for my next pick, my 2-unit pick. You mentioned numbers jumping off the page. this is probably one. This might be where we have a little bit of dissension in this pick. Fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I forget what it is. But
So Baltimore, I'm going to lay the 9.5
yes,
at home against the Broncos, who you also touched on. Who would you say 5-3?
Yeah. I mean,
Wild
they
how they've
suck,
gotten
but
there.
they're 5-3.
So, yeah, this is a number that jumps out, but I'm comfortable laying this for a couple of reasons. I do think Denver's defense is maybe due for a regression here, at least as it relates to this week. The quarterbacks that Denver has beaten this season, Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, the combination of Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, Aaron Rodgers, who we just got done dumping on, and Baker Mayfield, who I actually think is okay. Lamar Jackson, by far the best quarterback they've faced.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, see, the issues with Baltimore has been they've been pretty susceptible through the year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Bo Nix takes advantage of that, or the Denver offense takes advantage of that.
Probably not.
The quarterbacks that Baltimore has faced, which I think skews their numbers a little bit, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, and Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew. So whatever. The top real 4 or 5 of those are legit. So I think these two teams are just in very different weight classes. I think you're going to see that this week. This feels like one of those games that Baltimore comes back off last week's loss, which I think we were both on the right side of that.
Yeah.
I think that was just a bad spot for them. But I think they get right this week, take advantage of the rookie quarterback matchup. And I think we get back to we see why Lamar is now among the MVP favorites. I feel like you like Denver though. Probably.
You make a compelling case. Yeah, it's just 9.5 points is a lot for what I think is a good defense. It is. This is a big test for them. Like the schedule says what it says. If the defense is real though, like I think it's probably the best unit in this game. Maybe
Baltimore's offense is pretty good.
It's fine.
It's fine. I mean, I'm just saying it's pretty good. That quarterback's pretty good. That running back, pretty good. At Deontay Johnson now, I think that is that's a move that could make an impact in that offense. Good route runner, move the sticks kind of guy.
Baltimore's offense number 1 in the NFL by DVOA. Denver's defense number 5. So it's closer than maybe I thought when I said that. I'm just putting it out there for conversation's sake. Yeah, I just think 9.5 is a lot. So.
It is. The other thing that from a Denver standpoint, would they play in Carolina last week? So you're going
they're
east,
going back
to west, now back to east to another 1:00 game. A lot of travel in there, so some weird stuff going on too, especially when you have a rookie quarterback. Denver's a weird team. Like you throw out the 5-3 and it's jarring. So here's another way to come at this. In terms of the AFC West, I feel like beyond the Chiefs, there's the second tier of Denver and the Chargers. Like which team? Because the Chargers have been kind of whatever too, but they're sitting at 4-3. So, what do you make of those two teams? Who's better in the short term and the long term?
The Chargers and who? The Broncos?
Yeah,
I think the Chargers are better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of toying with it. Just construction zones.
It's like ghosts and goblins.
Yeah.
Just making all sorts of noises in here.
I wasn't gonna say I think the Chargers are better because I think the quarterback and the coach are better. It's a little closer with the coach, obviously. I think that, and their defense has been elite. So I am more or less waiting for life to catch up to the Broncos, maybe. And I do think the Chargers project better as the season goes on, and they get a little more comfortable and familiar with each other in the system and all that stuff.
Yeah,
assuming they stay healthy.
It's just interesting how you have the one quarterback who is probably among the 5, 6, 7 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and then one who is just a rookie with just breaking onto the scene, and somehow you arrive at the same place.
Sure.
The exact same place.
It's just sports.
Yeah. Amazing how that happens.
Yep.
What do you got for a 2-unit?
I'm taking the over in the Chargers-Browns game. It's at 42.5 right now.
Oh,
which is,
teed it up for you.
Yeah, there you go.
That elite defense. You're taking it over.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get to that. This thing opened like 40, maybe even 39.5. It's been bet up. I'm on the wrong side of the movement, obviously. Whatever. I don't care. Let's see. I think a big thing here is injuries for the Chargers. I think they're without like their entire secondary, at least their cornerback room. Christian Fulton left with a hamstring injury. Dean Leonard's on IR with a hamstring. Asante Samuel Jr. is on IR with a shoulder injury. I think if they're down basically their entire secondary, or at least their corners, that's going to force Cleveland to throw the ball. And I actually think that behooves the Browns because you can't really run on the Chargers for starters. And I think, the problem with Jameis Winston is you're going to have inconsistency from week to week as you make some boneheaded plays from time to time. And I don't want to overreact to 1 week in a small sample size, but EPA through 7 weeks, weeks 1 through 7, they were 30th in the NFL with the offense. Week 8, they were 11th. So a major improvement against a good team, probably not a great defense, but a good team. You want to put Jameis on the list of all those quarterbacks that the Ravens played this season, go right ahead. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I think they're going to, like I said, they're going to throw the ball a lot, which is their best chance to obviously score points and just be effective on offense. On the other side, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was hospitalized with a neck injury. He was taken off last week. And then Denzel Ward got another concussion. I think it's his 6th of his career, which is not good. So injuries on the Cleveland side as well on defense. That offense, as I just kind of was talking about, has found its stride. David Njoku has been fantastic. I think Kelsey kind of tore them apart a couple weeks ago too, so something to keep in mind. I also saw this from Sharp Football Analysis. I really like this. Chargers 58.6% drop back rate over the last 3 games. That's 17th in the NFL. Doesn't sound like much. But the opening 4 games, they had a 48% drop back rate, which was last in the NFL. So they're starting to throw the ball a little bit more with Justin Herbert. They also have a 32.4% success rate on rushing plays, which ranks 29th in the NFL. So they kind of are going to have to come out and throw. I think you just see 2 teams right here that are, yes, defensively minded, good defenses, but I think those defenses are banged up, and I think you have 2 offenses that are going to be almost coaxed into throwing the ball a little bit more. So I think this has a good chance of getting over the 42.5.
Jameis Winston.
He's the man.
He's
a weirdo.
Could they trade him? Like, is he a quarterback that you would consider trading for if you were a team that's quarterback situation for one reason or another could use a boost? Like, because
there's not a lot of those teams out there.
He feels like you mentioned this, like, he's the type of guy that I think you could catch lightning in a bottle with more so than a lot of other quarterbacks. Like, I feel like if any quarterback trade that's going to happen at this time of year is going to be for what? Like a stabilizing veteran for a room, like something very boring. But like, if I'm a team that is on the cusp of playoff contention and you're just really trying to elevate your ceiling, you're not concerned about the floor, that's a guy I'd go after. Why not?
Yeah, I just don't know.
Why not?
Indy?
Well, that's who I was thinking of. A team like that. Like, if
if
I'm Indianapolis, I feel a lot better rolling with Jameis Winston than I do Joe Flacco.
I look at Cleveland. It's like they're 2-6. They have the Chargers, bye, Saints, Steelers, Broncos, Steelers. They could win all of those games. They're not totally out of it yet, so I don't think that they should.
So, but in that sense, this weekend could be a big game for them.
I agree.
Yeah.
What's your 1 unit play?
1 unit play. I'm gonna go to one of your teams here. I'm going to take the under 48.5 in Lions-Packers at Lambeau. I thought about taking the side here, leaning Green Bay. Jordan Love's injury situation obviously makes me a little hesitant to do that.
That's not good.
I'm assuming, based on this number, that the expectation is that he's going to play. 48.5 seems pretty high if he's not playing.
Malik Willis.
But either way, I think there are a couple things that I'm kind of expecting here at some point from Detroit's standpoint. I think the Aiden Hutchinson injury has not caught up to him yet, but I think there's going to come a week where we see the ill effects of that. Maybe it's as soon as this week, where Green Bay's done pretty well at protecting the passer. I think they're number 2 in PFF pass blocking. So like, I think the lack of a pass rush opposite of Aiden Hutchinson was a problem to begin with. You lose him. I think just the lack of a pass rush in general is going to be a problem for Detroit. So there's that. I do think the offense is, as much as I like it long term, and I've said that week over week, like I think there's going to be spots where you get a little bit of a regression, like the Jameson Williams absence. They do have like there's been a lot of splash plays. Obviously, last week the offense didn't really have to do anything. That is like one of the most bizarre 50-point efforts in NFL history. So there's just a lot of things like that I'm like, I don't know. Like the offense is good, but it's not like 2007 Patriots good. So I think this is a week where Green Bay could slow them down a little bit. The other thing, we've talked about this before, but the turnovers that Green Bay forces, I think it was up to 19 of them now, 18 all of last season. So I think this game just gets a little bit uglier than Detroit would like, in which case 48.5 is a high total to begin with. I think it cruises under that. You also might get a little weather this week. If you want to start talking about the gloomy days, might be a little rain. Jared Goff hasn't played outdoors yet this season.
It's like the only game he plays outdoor all year. This in Chicago, probably, right?
And the splits are what they are. So just another thing that if this game gets muddy, ugly, it's going to go under the total. So I like under 48.5 in that game.
Yeah. One thing to note, Ian Rappaport reported this morning, Wednesday, Love is determined to play and has a really good chance to play Sunday. So,
in which case, north of a field goal at home, Packers have thrived in that underdog role before on the full flare. So,
and honestly, if you want to make the case for the Packers, you probably make the case for the under, right? Like, I guess they could win a shootout or cover in a shootout, but yeah, if they play their game, I think a lot of their success has been tied to the defense this year, and I think that would be the case as well. And plus, if Love's hurt or he's still banged up, I mean,
does that concern you at all? That the fact he's had a couple of injuries outside of like, yeah, it concerns me. He's my starting quarterback, but like long term, like his ability to stay healthy.
No, because like the knee injury was a fluke, right?
Yeah.
He pulled a groin.
I'm mostly with you, but sometimes these flukes lead to another fluke, and it's like, what are we doing?
That's always a weird one, and it's like a very knee-jerk thing, like a sports radio thing. This guy's injury-prone. I think that's maybe one of the unfairest things that you could argue about a player in any sport, like in just the overall sports ecosystem, where it's like,
that
if anything, he's unlucky. He's not. You know what I mean? Like,
I would disagree with.
There are guys who I don't think have as much
pain thresholds come into play. I think
the guy. Well, he tried to play through it. So are you saying two different things? So like, is he injury? I don't think injury prone necessarily exists. I think that's more luck than anything.
I would.
Unless it's like the guy keeps getting hurt in the same place. So like Andrew Luck, he had a neck injury.
I'm not saying that I think Jordan Love is there, but I think there's been guys over the years that it's like, how does this happen?
I just think those guys are unlucky.
Very unlucky in some cases.
Like who?
I don't know. Like pick a athlete who's historically who's just always hurt, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
I guess I'm splitting hairs.
Like
playing semantics, but like
Giancarlo Stanton to like use the World Series off of that. Like, I don't know. You get to a point you're like, you're injury prone.
I guess
that guy's his body isn't built for a 162 game Major League Baseball. Obviously, very sport to sport too, so we could really get in the weeds here. But I think by and large, injury prone is a thing.
What is that guy built for then? If not for
weightlifting, I don't know, bodybuilding competitions. He's got a great body.
Slimmed down, had a great year. Doesn't have a good body. All right, I gotta go quick here. My last pick. The more I looked into this, the less I liked it. So whatever. My 1 unit play is the under in the Bills. Dolphins game, 49.5 is the number. Last two games between these two teams have gone under the number, including earlier this year. People will say, well, Tua got hurt in that game. Yeah, but Tua sucked in that game, too. He's 17-25 for 145, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. His last two games against Buffalo, completing can't do that math in my head. 60% of his passes, averaging 6 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Buffalo, I think they have a pretty good defense. Top 10 since the Baltimore game, which they got pantsed. And explosive plays allowed. Third all season in missed tackle percentage. I think they match up well with Miami because I think they do a pretty good job of keeping everything in front of them, kind of like the Belichick thing from back in the day. And again, they tackle, so they're not going to give up a lot of that yak stuff that Miami thrives on. Miami looked better last week, which I expected offensively. I just wonder maybe some little consistency there. They had a much easier game last week, I thought, against Arizona than they do against Buffalo here. Buffalo top 10 red zone defense. Numbers high, 49.5. Weather will not. Doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue. It's going to be a pleasant day in Orchard Park. But I just think feels a little too high for what Buffalo largely has done this year. I also saw maybe I'm just transfixed by a graph I saw the other day of they can't get separation at all, the receivers, yet Allen has one of the best passer ratings, and he's been able to get balls to receivers who in the tightest of windows.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much you can rely on that. So again, when the number's that high, I'm going to lean the under here. I also think they could just win this game 30-10. So that's something too.
Buffalo's starting to feel like a team that after years of hype, maybe people slept on a little bit coming into this year.
Probably.
What are you drinking over there?
This is apple cinnamon tea.
Ooh.
It's really good.
Hennessy. It's what is that random brown liquid he has in that?
Drinking Hennessy. That'd be sick. Let's just get wrecked.
We could do that. Or we could pull pumpkins.
All right. Do you want to do that or you want to do the monster match?
I don't know. So it's up to you.
Start with the monster match. So the idea of this is we're going to pick the best landing spot for a handful of random teams. You had these in your desk, so you just wanted to use them, basically. So,
yeah, I mean, these are a holdover from last year. We have a lot of trinkets and
random stuff.
All
right.
Remember that when the Super Bowl rolls around, I get placemats and stuff.
And I was tasked with putting the names on these, and so I'll try to explain them the best as I can.
And we'll use them next year, and you can just scratch out the name and write a new name on it, whoever's on the trade block.
So this first one is the bat. This is Chuba Hubbard. And really, I went with the orange and black. I think Chuba Hubbard went to Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken. So that's where that. Carolina stinks. They should trade everybody. I don't know if they're going to end up trading him, but is there a spot you think he'd make sense? At the trade deadline.
I mean, he's a weird one, right? The running back.
Yeah.
You could really stick him on any contending team. I don't know. Maybe Minnesota.
Yeah, that's not bad. Dallas, I think, is a team that sticks out for a lot of people where it's, they just are a place where running backs go to die. That's just washed up running backs across the board. They would make sense. San Francisco, maybe. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you try and look at some teams maybe that play outside. They're going to play some big games down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota. I know they got a little bit of depth beyond Aaron Jones, but I feel like keeping him healthy with a limited workload should be of the utmost importance.
I'm going San Francisco.
Okay.
Buffalo would actually be interesting too. So yeah. So go ahead.
All right, we got a Frankenstein here. Mike Williams.
So Mike Williams is Frankenstein built in a lab, but kind of complicated. Mike Williams, lots of great talent, upside. He's a freak athlete, can't stay healthy. That's a guy who might be injury prone to tie it together. Mike Williams, a team we talked about. If you believe in him, go do it. Make it happen. Tampa Bay. Okay. Obviously, right? Ton of injury to the wide receiver room. Baker feels like a good match. They can kind of stretch the field there. I like that as a landing spot for him.
What about back to the Chargers?
So that was the other one. That was the other one I was told.
It worked there.
Yeah,
we are really picking up steam here. I feel like this wall is about to just turn into a revolving bookcase or something.
Frankenstein's monster getting beat. Built over there.
Chargers for Mike Williams. Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
What a random collection of names.
This one, I got two on this one. Jadeveon Clowney and Zadarius Smith. You got kind of Zadarius Smith is kind of diet Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
Not really sure why I went with the witch there.
Yeah. I got to go Lions after I was just talking about their pass rush. And then take Detroit.
Yeah, there's one where it's I don't know if they're going to trade Clowney or not. The Lions is the obvious option, right? They need to boost that pass rush. trying to think of another team that could maybe make sense for them. Like it feels like the kind of move that if Miami wins this week, they're like talk themselves back into like they went out and got Chubb a couple years ago. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense for them. So yeah. I mean, all signs point to Detroit.
And
the cat.
We got Jonathan Jones. Who needs help in the secondary?
Can't remember why I had him as a cat. He's kind of small, right?
He's athletic.
5'9", 183. He's stride. Like feels like a guy who's always going to land on his feet. Where do you think he ends up?
What about Kansas City?
So it sounds like that's the most obvious option.
Patriots and Chiefs just made a trade. Maybe they exchange the name back and forth, so maybe there's something already to build off of there. It could be a easy deal to make before the deadline. Chiefs obviously have a need for a cornerback, a little depth in that secondary, so I think the Chiefs make a lot of sense.
I will go with the Packers. I think they could use some help in the secondary as well. He could use. I guess he could do. Yeah, the Chiefs probably make more sense. But we already did the Chiefs Patriots thing, so give them to the Packers. So. All right, this is the last one.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, this is. Well, I had this one. I had this one tucked away. This is the last one.
Right.
The skeleton. Aaron Rodgers, dead guy, basically dead. So if they trade him, which
I floated Jameis Winston. Aaron Rodgers is even more. It's even crazier talk.
I brought it up earlier. Not happening. It's probably not happening because I think the Jets would get porked with dead money and things like that. But let's just say they lose this week in embarrassing fashion. It's
spooky, bizarro world.
Let's just get this thing out of here. Where does he go?
Oh man,
There's not a lot of options. You look
I was pulling up the list of teams to see if anybody jumped out at me.
So the number one, I think the Colts are the most realistic, right? From a drama standpoint, I'm not saying this has happened. I kind of want it to happen though. Like Sam Darnold's played his ass off, but Minnesota would be sick for a handful of reasons. So that's where I would. That's where my heart wants it to end up, but I don't know.
Yeah, those are the only two, really, right? The Broncos. They just
the
pull
Broncos
the plug on Bo Nix and decide go right back to the Russell Wilson well.
And that makes sense, too, because they were, can they get Nathaniel Hackett? Well, I guess probably not. Well, I actually don't think he's going to end up in Denver the more I think about it. There might be some hurt feelings over that. So, I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be awesome. I was reading something on ESPN today, feels like it's going to be a relatively sleepy deadline.
Yeah. I mean, in general, the idea of a starting quarterback changing teams mid-season is sort of wild anyway. It's like there was that rumor a few weeks ago about Matthew Stafford, whether they'd entertain the idea of trading him. Which, by the way, I think I'm in on the Rams. I think I want as low as I can because I think their arrow is pointing up that offense. The coach, the quarterback. I like the Rams.
Yep. All right. I thought that went okay.
We didn't get to the pumpkins, but hey.
Oh, we got time.
Do we have time?
We got time, yeah. You want to do? All right. So this is trick or treat. We're going in this. We're just pulling out stuff. You got what is in here?
I don't know. I just
scaredy cats.
I found those in my desk too.
All right. So this is basically buy or sell, but
maybe I'm the one drinking that.
Trick or treat. I'm gonna pull these out
of my desk.
These are basically based on storylines. I'll throw a bet or two at you. Kind of trick or treat. Baze, you got it. Okay. All right. This is let's see here. Offensive Player of the Year, Derrick Henry plus 125 is the favorite. Are you going to trick or treat? I guess a treat would be you want it.
That would be that I buy it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say trick. All right. I think I'm trying to think of an alternative. I think Saquon Barkley.
Right?
Could be a very good alternative there. And I think that offense is gaining steam now. I think Philly is another team that I might have.
Trick or treat?
What is the difference?
I think you're tricking.
Trick. That's what I said.
Okay. I wasn't sure what you said. I forgot already.
You're tricking me. And
this is all part of it.
Trick. Because the alternative for me is Saquon Barkley.
Saquon's plus 380 at FanDuel. If I was to bet on anything, I would go probably farther down the list. But if you look at it, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Lamar Jackson, nothing really kind of jumps off the page. Jaden Daniels, 50-1. Could he win Offensive Player of the Year? Not win MVP? It's hard.
It seems like a skill position player award.
Yeah. I'll just keep firing these at you.
Okay.
Let's see here. Trick or treat. Chiefs, AFC champion, 2-1.
Ooh. I don't like the number. Like, I don't really have any interest in tying up money in that. So, a trick. I like Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo plus 420. Baltimore plus 330. One thing I've kind of been ruminating on, Texans plus 650.
Yeah,
just got to tread water till Nico Collins gets back.
Yeah.
The Diggs thing we've already seen in Buffalo. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. I think they kind of teams forget about them.
There's a
Mike Williams. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So, yeah, I'm actually tricking that as well. And I look at all these other teams. Again, I even kind of floated the Chargers a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 31. They're now 28.
Yeah, don't sleep on Cincinnati at 21 to 1.
21 to 1. All right.
I'm still not out on them.
Trick or treat. NFC number 1 seed. The Lions plus 150 are the favorite right now.
Oh God, I'd have to I'll treat myself to that because I don't know what the.
So the Eagles are the second closest at 4-1. The Packers are plus 550. The Commanders 7-1. Vikings 7-1, and Falcons 12-1. This one we kind of I don't know. I was just like, let's just throw it out there to have the conversation. It's hard to find. I guess this thing could change this week. If the Packers win, then the Packers get hot and go on a run, but they still have to go to Detroit. They have to play Chicago twice, so a lot can kind of move. And it's actually plus 160 now. So
I still really like Philly in the NFC. Like I think they're turning a corner. But as far as the number 1 seed goes, I think it's a treat for Detroit.
Yep. All right, we're almost done here. Trick or treat. Next coach fired. Doug Peterson minus 150 favorite.
That's a treat. Get him out of there.
So
I've been banging this drum for a long time.
This is an offshore one. Gerard Mayo is the second favorite, which is crazy. 5-1. Mike McCarthy 6-1. Dennis Allen 6-1. Pierce plus 650. Zach Taylor 12-1. If you're really giving me $100 to bet it, I would bet McCarthy, even though they don't fire guys in season. Minus 150 is hard to lay for a guy. I'd rather just bet against the Jags the rest of the season.
Sure.
But yeah, I think
it's an easy one.
Almost saved himself with they'd come back and beat the Packers last week. This is our last one, and then we will get out of here. Yeah. Coach of the year.
Oh, the other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
That worked out well.
Trick or treat. Coach of the year. Dan Quinn plus 210.
Oh, I'll say trick. You know who I think deserves a long look for this is Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin plus 750, the third favorite here.
The way that team is exceeding expectations, despite me dumping on them week to week and typically picking against them. Like, it's pretty impressive that they're sitting there 6-2. Mm-hmm. In the handling of that quarterback situation, like that is.
Yeah.
I know this is an award. You kind of just look at what a team did last year, what they're doing this year. So hence why Dan Quinn is the favorite. But I think Tomlin deserves a good look.
I made a real life bet this morning on Matt LaFleur at 13-1. Just because with the Malik Willis thing, I don't think it's going to happen because you just look at there's 6 guys in front of him, and I feel like this is a predictable type of thing where, Dan Quinn probably, or Kevin O'Connell with a backup quarterback for the whole year. Mm-hmm. Well, is he a backup? I don't know. But I just think, I know I'm a homer, but LaFleur deserves more credit for what he's done the last few years where they just were willing to, get rid of Aaron Rodgers, turn it over to a guy who really had no experience, was very good his first season, looks even better his second season. And the Malik Willis thing, you bring him in. LaFleur made the decision to fire Joe Barry and bring in Halfley, which has been so that's 13-1 felt like value there. But Dan Quinn at plus 210.
It's a trick.
It's a trick because I think Jaden Daniels is the guy who gets all the credit there.
Maybe the Chiefs go undefeated and you hand it to Andy Reid by
9-1. Yeah.
By default.
Yep. Well, maybe not. That'd be funny. Oh, McVay, 33-1.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Something to keep in mind.
That's a real good one.
Because you like them. So, all right. Anything else?
No. Halloween.
What's your Halloween plans?
I don't really have anything. Nothing lined up.
Cool.
It's just nice.
Good. Oh, yes. One thing I noticed this morning when I was running, doorbell, left or right side of the door?
Right.
Mine's on the left. I just bought a new one. Now I'm really in my head. I think it depends where the door handle is. Right? I don't know. This is my thing. Something to think about for the rest of the day. You can be in bed tonight and being like, oh, Christ.
I got to go right. open with the left, ring with the right.
Fair enough. All right.
What do I know?
Got the really important stuff out of the way at the end. Enjoy your Halloweens. Enjoy Election Day. Enjoy the trade deadline. I guess when we reconvene next week, the deadline will be behind us. The Election Day will be behind us. We will be full speed into November. So thank you for joining us. See you again next week. Goodbye.